Uh,
Hello.
hey, Erin.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep,
How are you?
I'm good. Yep.
I'm so excited to meet with you. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule with all the people that we talk to and about with chronic pain. And we have a diversity of stories that we have, and we haven't talked to anybody that has been yours with the double amputee and kind of get a little insight there. And one of the things that I'm also really interested about, Erin, is you share some, if you watch the posts, you see some of your story, and you've got a lot of views on there. It's been inspirational for a lot of people. um but this might be an opportunity, even if it's just for the half hour that we have, maybe 45 minutes, to share a part of your story that you might not have even shared before, that people that are following you don't know. And so that's what my hope is for us. You can just kind of go back as far as you want. Um, just really kind of informal to kind of talk about maybe how it happened, you know, the pain that was associated with it, any pain that goes, that you've got now. You've got a number of different ways in which you move around. You've got the wheelchair, you've got the short um, uh, kind of leg
Stubbies.
products, and then the longer ones, how that all plays out, which one works better, is any of them more painful. It's just a world not only for people that don't have anybody in their life that this has that has impacted, but I'm sure that people that it has. And there, you've got people out there that are, something has just barely happened and they're feeling alone and they don't know who to look to. And pain comes in all forms, and a lot of times people sadly you know look at the life that they are facing, and what would be involved with coping with that versus just checking out and the suicides, right? And so we want to try to not only give opportunity to have you share your story, the inspiration that comes from that, but also just help increase awareness and have people talk about it more, right? And kind of normalize being
Yeah.
open, honest about things that are going on. So with that, before we kind of have you get, how did do you recall how you kind of connected with us? Do you remember?
It was through TikTok. Um, and I think I'm not sure if there's an algorithm, but I think that there was something that kind of brought us together with chronic pain and my situation and living in chronic pain. Um, I'm just gonna give that one to TikTok.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think that you might have used the hashtag like Spoonies of TikTok or something like that. And I might have even seen some of the posts in that space and reached out to you. But yeah, for sure, TikTok has been doing an amazing job in helping bring people together and kind of connecting. And so, again, we appreciate you accepting the invite for us to have you join us. We'll be doing an edited version of 30 minutes and just uploading that to YouTube. After I do that, I'll put a 60-minute or 60-second kind of post that just kind of highlights, that lets people know that that's available to go to our YouTube. So you feel free to duet that or whatever you'd like, and I'll tag you on that. So watch for that in about a week's time. But with that, go ahead and take us back to kind of what your story is and how things kind of started for you.
All right. Well, it's my pleasure to be here, and thank you. Um, so, well, I lost my legs in June of 2018 to a heroin overdose. I was addicted to heroin for 2 years, and I had gotten sober for another 2 years and had a one-time relapse that took me out, and I was unconscious for 12 hours on the bathroom floor, and I must have fallen on top of my legs because I developed what's called compartment syndrome, and that means that no oxygen can get to the blood, and your tissue essentially dies from being crushed. Um, so I I had woken up 12 hours later, and I don't know how, but I just kind of dragged myself to the phone, and I called 911, and they took me in and put me in a medically induced coma where I was in for a month. And then they had to get consent to amputate. So they had woken me up. And I was kind of like, what are you doing? Just do it. Like, you could have done it when I was unconscious. Now I
Yeah.
have to think about this and now weigh my life. Like, do I want to live, or do I want to die? And, sadly, like, the first thought I had was I didn't want to live. I didn't see a life beyond not having my legs. And that was my first thought. And then I started to think more. I had, my son was a year and a half, and I had to really, like, look inside and see that he deserves to have a mother, and I deserve to have a life with my child and to get
Mhm.
well. So I went on with the amputations. I agreed and consented, and they amputated first below the knees on both sides. And then a week later, they had to amputate above the knee because the necrosis had set in and I was losing tissue by the day. So that's how it started. And that's the beginning of my physical pain, because I think there's two parts that I experienced, which is the emotional pain and the physical pain. And when um, I was preparing for amputation, I'd read about phantom pain, and it's 80% of amputees experience phantom pain. And I was thinking to myself, I'm going to be that, I'm going to be that 30% that is, it's not going to happen to you. I'll be fine. But I was so wrong. And when it set in, I felt like a fire and a burning that was, it was awful. It was more painful than losing my actual limb, because that pain, like, healed, but the phantom pain didn't ever go away. And everyone experiences a little bit differently, but I experience it as an electric shock type pain and a fire, like burning. And on a good day, it's like a low, dull pins and needles sort of pain. So I only manage that with gabapentin. I know some people have good experiences with gabapentin and Lyrica and other nerve blockers, and some people don't. So it's a toss up. But I was fortunate that the gabapentin did help, but it took months. Like, I was in the hospital and I was in pain for, like, those first 2 months were just brutal. I couldn't get any relief because the gabapentin has to build up in your system before it starts to work. Um,
So what do they call it? Phantom pain? Is that had to do? Was you experiencing as if the pain was in the area where your legs once was?
yeah, the pain I'm feeling are in my toes and sometimes in my calves, even though they're no longer there. That's where I
Ooh.
feel the pain. And the name phantom pain kind of, like, it wrongly leads you to think that it's just in your head, that it's a
Mm.
made up pain that's not really real, but it is a very real pain. It's due to a fault in the sensor motory cortex of the brain that's used to receiving pain signals and sending the information back up. But what happens is the pain in the area that isn't there anymore. So when it gets back to the brain, as this is painful, it doesn't know where to send the signals to start relieving the pain, and there's nowhere for them to go. So the body then experiences it as pain. There's
Wow.
it's
It's interesting because, and by the way, as you get to know both of us, especially Nell, and this is her baby, and she gives her love. She wishes that she could be to all of these. She's just not doing well today, and she'll look forward to watching the recording on YouTube. But she has, with complex regional pain syndrome, it's having the pain that she has, it's kind of like disordered, right? And that, with the inflammation and some different reactions of what's happening. And she does a better job of explaining it, but it's, pain and the relationship with the body, and then what it does in relation to that is kind of in a confused state. And I know I'm kind of oversimplifying there. We can go into that in a lot more, but um, what you're talking about is that, okay, the legs are no longer there, but the brain's job is to still have this relationship with pain and what to do with it, right? In terms of trying to get,
Exactly.
wow.
That's right. So
And
yeah, the body just it doesn't know what to do, and so it that's why everyone experiences it differently, but it is a pain. It's kind of it's kind of annoying, honestly. Like even when it's not super painful, it's still like feels kind of like the sensation of when your foot has fallen asleep, but
mhm.
it's all the time and you can't like smack it out or anything. I mean, there are things you can do to help with phantom pain. As an amputee, you can desensitize the ends of your nubs. As a double amputee, we're encouraged to stand on a pillow and bear weight and desensitize the nerve endings. So it's then easier to walk with the prosthetics. And um, it is painful. I'm not gonna lie. In the beginning, especially, you want to cry after 10 seconds, but that's all you can do. And then you just slowly build up. And I'm still working on it. I have a friend who she can like walk around on the ends of her nubs like on a carpet floor, and she's fine. I can't even begin to think about doing that yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is beneficial though to desensitize.
You know, when Nell was isolated and watching, people on YouTube and the different stories that they went through, it was her dream to kind of reach out to people. If you haven't had a chance, I'd encourage you, if you go on our YouTube site, if you click on the link in our bio and go out to YouTube, there's about a 13-minute Nell's audio letter. And we're starting to post them in segments. But if you get a chance to listen to that, it really talks to her kind of speaking to you and to everybody. And she just does an amazing job of including, we've learned about the diversity. Like it's been unreal of all the different stories, all within the umbrella of pain, right? But she kind of just speaks to everybody in terms of that's kind of it's not just our overarching theme, but we add chronic pain and debilitating conditions, and that kind of gets into emotional, mental grief. So I'd recommend, as you get to know her as well, I know that we're new to you as well, and you're getting to know us, but I think that will really touch you. You said that before you even had the accident, you kind of got into, there must have been pain that was going on in, we talked with someone and she had kind of, some similarity in that she had a very traumatic childhood, and then she got into addiction, and after she was able to get clean, she now speaks at schools and things, and we've met with people that have bipolar and different things, and so we try to also be inclusive of that, because it's not just like the value of awareness is just, hey, you've gone through something physical, right? Or that you're going through
Right.
something. As we all know, there's way more that's going on that's kind of invisible. Is there anything that you want to kind of share about that and how that kind of relates with why you even got into the heroin before you had the accident? Because I know that you got that physical component, but does that ring
Yeah,
true to you as well?
I can't really pinpoint a specific traumatic incident that happened to me that led me to using heroin. I think that I had depression, and I was diagnosed bipolar at a young age, and when I was around 17, and I think I had this kind of inner self-loathing that I really don't know if I could pinpoint on where it started. Um, because I had, a middle class upbringing. My parents were in my life, and I had, every chance to succeed. I think that, it was a lot more of a battle with me and myself. And I don't know. maybe some of it could be put on middle child syndrome. You know, maybe like at times I've had, a narcissistic parent,
Yeah.
um, that, but I don't like to point fingers and lay blame on, you know, on my parents or, anything like that growing up. And it's different if I had been like physically abused and molested, but I've been going to recovery meetings now. I've been sober 3 years and 4 months, and so often I hear over and over again people blaming their parents, blaming like an incident in their life where like this is the reason I started using, and I feel like to a point there's some validity that can be extremely damaging, and at another point I feel like you have to take accountability for your own choices and your own actions. And I I think I always wanted to be loved. I always wanted to be in a romantic relationship. And when I found that with someone, he introduced me to drugs, and I was willing to do anything to stay in that relationship.
Okay.
And so, um, again, I'm not like laying blame. I'm
No, I
just trying to
understand.
say like, yeah,
No, I think that's a good point in that, you know, a lot of people's circumstances leading up to, you know, even if it involves choices like you're talking about, um, there's no question that there are people that have been a victim of certain things, but at the same time, and I know that they are also, uh, wanting themselves to not have that turn into like a victim kind of mentality or situation, and that they're not, acknowledging the control that they have in their life, whether it was because of a poor choice or whether that was because there's always something that we can do to improve ourselves. So yeah, I appreciate you kind of pointing that out, that we all want to, regardless of our stories, um, find those things that, what is it that we can take responsibility for, right? What can we be
right.
accountable for? How can we make something better, even if there are some things that continue to be out of our control?
Right. And in no way am I victim blaming or trying to let help have people feel invalid for feeling the way that they feel from a traumatic event. I
Sure.
I I only want to shed light to that there's only the choices we can make now in this moment, and that means looking back at what part we played, and and how we can go forward to um to make better choices, or you know
Sure, absolutely. No,
yeah.
I completely get it. When when you when you started kind of realizing that in your case that the reason why this pain kind of gotten introduced into your life and the accident, right, that you've described, what was that like? Kind of, what was that like waking up to that? I mean, you have on top, you already, I mean, you're starting to kind of just, make sense of the fact that your life physically has changed, but you at some degree have awareness that I'm responsible for it.
Oh
How
yeah,
it's not
I
overwhelming?
blame myself for years, and this is why I'm saying I never want to victim blame, or I never want to make people feel like wrong for feeling bad for themselves and for what choice they made. So I had I remember waking up and looking down and seeing my legs weren't there, and it was like I was in a nightmare. I was like, I have to wake up. I was like trying to wake up and I couldn't, because this was my reality now. And that when I realized that, I was just like, I'm sorry, I kind of I forgot what I was going to say
Okay,
before that.
you still were, as you were realizing that your legs were gone, you still were not completely sober though, right? I mean, you're still kind of,
No,
yeah,
yeah, no, I was on fentanyl, Dilaudid,
yeah,
everything to try to ease the pain, which was very real. And the emotional pain was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to live my life now? Like, you know, what am what am I going to do? I can't do this alone. Like, and at the time I thought that son's father was going to be there, but he wasn't, and he left very quickly. So
Oh,
it was extremely painful. And I was just, I was at a loss because I had this drug charge now, and my child was given to my grandparents, thank God, and because he also had a drug addiction, and so I couldn't move back home, and I was living with him, but he had moved another woman into my apartment while I was in the hospital, and I couldn't go home, so I was then homeless for two
oh,
years
God.
out of losing my legs, and he decided, to try to fight me for custody, but he was gonna, even though he was still using, he felt like he deserved it more or whatever, and then he had stopped, and of course, I at that point I was just on the medication they were giving me at the hospital, but I was weaned off and managed to stay off, but I was going to family court like months after losing my legs, trying not to lose my parental rights and not having a home that I could give to him at this point.
Mhm.
So he really knew when to strike, I think, and it was really painful, really difficult. But I've been able to turn my life around. By the grace of God, I started working, and I'm a graphic designer. I just continued on my course, and I made some money, and I played with some of that money in the stock market. I was able to get a house, and I'm now living in that's not far from my parents, and I have a car that I can drive with hand controls, and I now have joint custody of my son. So it was really, but it was a really hard road. Like, and I'm still learning how to walk independently. It's been 4 years, and I feel like so much of my energy was focused on surviving and getting sober.
Yeah.
I went to rehab for 2 years. I thought I was like, after 10 months, I'll be done, I'll be out. But I decided at the end, I was like, no, I need to stay. I need to really, like, really not play games with my sobriety. And it's not
Mhm.
a race to a finish line. It's making sure I can maintain. And I'm happy I did that. But yeah.
Wow, that's a lot to go through. Then you wake up to that and you realize if this is going to be my new life, this is where things are physically. I'm not able to cope and manage with this if I don't get better in this other area. And
Mm-hmm.
so focusing on your sobriety, then that whole dynamic of, your concern for your child. So that was me. That was must, but a lot of beautiful things ironically came from all of that, right? I mean, that you felt very blessed and that was an opportunity for you to, as it pertains to choices. But once you're able to kind of focus on your health overall and you kind of let things, a lot of that consequence settle, here you are, and then now you're in a better position to be like, okay, how can I get better at maneuvering and career and
Well, I want to say that I have more of a life now than I did when I was in active addiction. That wasn't a life. I was just chasing a bag. I was waking up wanting to die, and it was no way to really live. I mean, now I've been able to go skiing for the first time. I went mono skiing. I never thought I'd be able to do that. I made friends with some amazing people. A good friend of mine is Matthew Brewer, who's a Paralympian, double above knee amputee, um, monoskier. And I've been able to travel to Costa Rica and Mexico. I've been able to really live my life, because I think when I was laying in bed and I was considering, do I live or do I die? I had thought, I haven't gone anywhere. I haven't seen anything. I've always
yeah.
wanted to see South America. I've never been. And I don't want to go out like this. There were so many things I still wanted to do. And I started really living when I started to heal and started to focus on my mental health. And it was it still is a practice. It still is a, making sure I'm in check and being honest with myself and checking off those boxes to make sure that I'm making making good choices, and that I'm
Progress.
still.
Well, and you're even a certified peer counselor now.
Yes, yep, that too. So I'm so happy for the opportunity to give back and hopefully help people, just see that, if I can do it, you can do it. That's it.
You lost some things, but you gained even much more in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so much more. So much more. Having a relationship with my child, you know, where I'm present and I get to watch him grow up, it's the biggest gift in the world. And yes, there's been sacrifice along the way, but there's still so much more and life is worth living. It is absolutely a good life.
Yeah. Well, is there anything I know that I appreciate you joining. This is still going to be a great post that I'm going to be able to put out there on YouTube, and hopefully you can kind of direct people that are wanting to know your story a little bit more, so that they kind of fill in the blank and how inspirational it is. Is there anything else that you kind of want to share for those that are either struggling with addiction, or that have had an accident, or just even people that are going through chronic
I
pain?
just want to say to people that are in active addiction and that are struggling with pain and don't see tomorrow, that you're worthy of a good life. And it may not feel like it, but the truth is that you are. And I really just want everyone to know that they can achieve anything that they want to, and ultimately know that you deserve to. It's your purpose to being on this planet, to have a good life.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch. I'll reach out to you. You're kind of part of the Spoonful family, and that at least once a year we'll kind of give you an invite where other guests all kind of come on a Zoom call. So it'll be neat, and hopefully you can find some good connections, right, on TikTok, as more and more people kind of come together. So I can't thank you enough for joining us and everything that you're doing. I'm just really impressed with what you've chose to do with this, and I think you're going to give a lot of encouragement for a lot of people, so that they know that this is an option. They don't have to feel like their life is over, or even commit suicide or whatever. They can really turn what could have otherwise been a pretty negative longer term situation into something that's been as amazing as yours. So
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to looking at Nell's YouTube and getting to know her a little more. And I really appreciate your time today. This was a lot of fun.
you bet. Okay, we'll be in touch. All the best.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
We'll see you, Erin.